Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome back to my Minecraft Let's Play, where today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have 3 time lapses and something else where we're going to make 4 fantastic farms. And the first one is a witch farm. And here you can see we have our witch hut, and the first job is to completely dismantle it. Now, I used those white and blue markers so I knew where the witch hut was, so I could build the farm in the right place. However, I did actually fail to put it in the correct place and had to completely rebuild this later. I had to move it down by 1 and make it 1 wider and 1 fatter. I'll show you when it gets round to it. But here we go, building it nonetheless. And today we're going to be using the tripwire hook method and flushing system to get these witches off the platforms. Now here you can see I'm using blue ice for the platforms in the hope that the witches will slide off the platforms nice and quickly. And you can see the water there, all the swampy water, flushes out from behind the trapdoors. Now that gets activated by the tripwire hooks and all the string across the platform. So when the witches spawn on the platform, they activate the tripwire hooks, bit of redstone lets the trapdoors down, and the water falls down. And time to put in floor number 3. So at this point I don't really know how I'm going to decorate this build. I pretty much had the mechanics planned out of how I was going to get them to spawn, how I was going to activate the tripwire hooks and where I was going to flush them out to, but I had no idea what I was going to make this thing look like. I thought it would be a bit of an experiment. But here we go, the third and final one is being popped on the top, and you can see that those trapdoors are just popping down ever so nicely. And I'm just popping up the ladder there. Well, not the ladder, we use scaffold now these days, don't we? Scaffold up the scaffold to fill up those bits and sections. And now I'm just trying to get a little bit of the outside lined up and sorted and looking a bit better. Also, I'm looking for any spots where I think any mobs will be able to spawn, and trying to get rid of them with either light or half slabs or anything like that. And then that will be much better, because we don't want anything that spawning inside this farm apart from the witches themselves. And you can see here I'm experimenting with decorating this build with some of those logs, and it's not long until I start working on the roof. Now for the roof I go with just some half slabs, and now we get a look at how it's starting to look from the outside. Now I thought about decorating this, and I like the kind of mystical look of these. I think they're the warped variety. It's one of the two. I always get the 2 different wood types from the nether mixed up, but then I thought, well, here we go, look, some crying obsidian. I thought that looks quite mystical as well, and I thought the magic element and the kind of the purpleness from the witch might match up with this build. And I did originally go for a design where I put a square bit across there, but later on you'll see I switched the design out. Slabs on the roof to stop things spawning up there, and talking of things spawning, yep, I do get a few slimes in the swamp spawning and attacking me, which is brilliant because I could actually do with a little bit of slime at the moment, so I'm quite happy to let them spawn and sort it out. Now the way that we're going to kill these witches is we're going to let them fall down and go into a bunch of minecarts. Standard Minecraft with a single player world allows entity cramming up to 24 entities. So there's 24 minecarts there sat on top of a hopper, and when a witch falls on there they will take damage from the fact that there's too many entities in one spot. So after they die, items get picked up in a hopper and then shot up this water elevator. Now this water elevator I did bring enough glass for, and I brought actually loads of glass on this one, and we're going to need a lot more glass, which is a bit of a hint for what might be coming up next. Anyway, you can see here that I go all the way up into the sky, and this is so that we can AFK at just the right height to load only the witch hut and the land directly beneath it. Now I did do a bit of digging around, and I checked beneath the witch hut and there's no caves directly beneath there, and we're not loading many layers anyway, so hopefully we shouldn't get many mobs spawning, if at all, on the floor. But now it's time to build up our sorting system, similar to what we did with the shard farm actually. So we're going to put ourselves in the sky and get a nice little sorting system. Now witches can drop 7 normal items plus potions in certain circumstances, and you can see here that some items are flying up the bubble elevator already. Now I'm putting my standard set of 4 chests in, 4 double chests. I actually had 1 chest short on this build. I don't know how I worked it out, but 1 chest short, never mind. I'll go and fetch a new one soon. And we're just using the water to push the items along these hoppers, and we're just doing a standard sorting system. We've done a few of these already, and you know, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that this one is pretty much the same. So I won't explain the redstone behind it. It's a very common sort of sorting system. Now the redstone on this is, like I said, quite simple. Not going to explain it, and it all went in very quickly, and I did just about remember how to do it off the top of my head. I'm getting much better at this, but the sorting system at our main base is going to be completely different, and it's something that I'm getting to work on already. I've already been collecting the materials that we're going to need. The sorting system at our main base is going to be one that has lots and lots of group sorting. So we're going to be able to say a number of different items can go down into one chest, and also that the way that chests are aligned is different as well. Now here, if we ever get any overflow of items, I haven't done anything about it. They're not going to be sorted and picked up by the hoppers there, and they'll just fall off the end, down, down and down, all the way to the ground, where you can now see I've rebuilt the witch farm, this time at the correct height and with the correct width and depth, and I've gone for a slightly different top. I put an X on the top instead of a square, and I've also used a bit more of the crying obsidian on the sides. Then we put a little ledge out, and again I chose crying obsidian for this. I think in hindsight I wish I'd have chose something else for this ledge, and this ledge is supposed to help with something called, I think it's pack spawning, but it's not something I've looked into too much, and I want to do more research on it. I'm not sure if I got that right, but I've popped it on anyway. It almost looks like a bit of a hat for the build, and there's a little redstone circuit down there just to spit out the items. And there we go, we're almost done. We just have to make a way of getting here and a little room to stand in. So for this one I thought I could make something really pretty, but it was getting late and I just wanted to be safe and against the phantoms while I AFK'd here. I thought, right, let's do a big glass box, nothing complicated, nothing weird, and then we can make something pretty later if we want to. So there we go, a big glass box, and you can see some items coming up from the witch farm already and starting to go in the filter system. And that portal there automatically hooked up to the nether roof, which was quite nice because it's not far away from the portal we have at the nether roof above our sky fortress. And here I just popped down and emptied out a couple of chests that had been stacking up whilst I was building the sorting system, and you can see all the items flying up, and I was very happy with that. Overall the build went well, apart from having to rebuild it, so if you kind of forget that bit, then it was fantastic. So now on to the second one, and the second one is related to that glass. Yes, it's sand. There's not enough sand in this world, so I'm building a sand duper. I could rip out another desert. I've already ripped out one desert, and I hate the way that deserts look after you take all the sand away, so we're going to dupe the sand. It's the only thing I am duping in this series, and this sand duper is quite a common one. I believe it's by Nembon who showcased it, but if you have a look in the video description, there's a link to all the different videos that I use and all the tutorials that I use in this series. This is one of those few builds that I build block for block, and I don't just work out a way that I'm going to do it or tweak the design. But here you can see I've put the redstone in, I've put the sand blocks in, and I'm testing it, and it all actually worked quite well. Unbeknownst to me, it was actually working perfectly. It's not a complicated little design, and as long as you get the timings right on the repeaters and put the bits in the right place, it all works absolutely lovely. So what happens is those sand blocks get fired at that end portal, and they go through the portal and land on the slime blocks at the exact same time, which means they dupe. So for the ones that come through the portal, they come flying in because they keep their angular velocity, and I've done it so that they're going to land on this hopper just here. Now I put a bit of redstone on that hopper so that the entity breaks and the sand goes into the hopper, and now we're just making a little platform to collect some sand. Now this doesn't work perfectly in a single player world as I've done it will need to put chunk loading in, and that's because as soon as I come through the end portal and sit and wait for sand to come here, then the overworld's no longer loaded and we don't get any sand shooting through. So the way to do that is to put a chunk loader, and we've already done 2 of them this series, so we'll have a 3rd chunk loader loading the overworld and loading the nether, so that we can then have ourselves in the end and have the sand come flying through. So I don't want this chunk loader to be on all the time, unlike the other 2 we've already built. So what I did is I moved the switch that turns the sand duper on and off, and then I put it into an etho hopper clock, which is what actually does the timing for the item going through the portal in the chunk loader. So this bit I hadn't planned out how it was going to be, so it took a little bit of moving around for me to work out where it was going to go, and I kind of just winged it and it worked out okay. The etho hopper clock gets connected up to some hopper minecarts through droppers. So there you go, you see there's the hopper minecarts beneath the portal, they go into hoppers beneath the minecarts, and then that just goes into a dropper elevator that passes an item back up through the portal. And when an item goes through a portal, it loads both dimensions for a few seconds. So we just pass the item backwards and forwards whenever the sand duper's running. You can see here the sand duper's going crazy, and that hopper clock is going backwards and forwards, sending a pulse through to our chunk loader. And that all works absolutely perfectly. So now we can have infinite sand. And what I did do is I went away back to the desert where I took all the sand from, and I relayed all the sand, just as penance for completely demolishing that area in the first place. And now we move on to number 3. You can see here I'm digging away a little area underneath our sky fortress, and this is all part of our underground dungeon where we're going to be getting a load of farms. And our 3rd farm is a wool farm. So here is our pen where I've had my sheep there for ages, just temporarily looking after them. There's our temporary in between bases base. It's been there for probably most of the season, but well. And here I am working out the redstone. This is another situation where I didn't go to a video to go and copy a design. I worked it out how I wanted to do it. I knew the basic principle that you just observed a grass block, and when that grass block got ate by the sheep, it would give an observer pulse, and that observer pulse you could use to get a dispenser to shear the sheep. Now I thought I'd try it with 1 or 2 sheep first, so here I go. I just lead 1 sheep in, and my daughter actually chose the first sheep. She said I had to do the purple one first, and here the sheep needs to get moved up inside there, so I didn't trust it. I just used a piston to put it in there, and I learnt my lesson, and I decided to sort out and put a little floor in later. I pushed a glass block inside the sheep's head just so that it was fully encased, and once I built one of the chambers I kind of knew what the size was for the other ones. Now there's 16 different coloured sheep, 16 different colours in Minecraft, so I made myself enough space in the dungeon there for me to fit all 16 in, and 2 rows of 8 did the job quite nicely. Again, working things out as I'm going along with this build, so you see me making a few different holes and tearing a few different bits down. And for the most part we're not decorating this, we're just going to keep the walls quite natural, so I just took out a few bits of stone that were just sticking through the walls and just replaced them with some spare bits of the sandstone, and now I'm just popping in the redstone. This is probably the simplest redstone I've ever done in any one of my farms. And from this angle you can see the underwater waterways that goes through the farm dungeons down towards the main water elevator. You can actually also just see the little scaffold pole down there at the bottom of the screen that takes you to the chunk loader in this area too. So as a temporary block, I thought using a bit of netherrack would be a good idea to put a temporary floor in so that we could get those sheep without having to use pistons. Now this time I was feeling a bit more adventurous, went to get more sheep and they all escaped, so I had to rind them up, lease them all up to the fence, and then I took a few sheep over to the farm. Each time I did it I got a bit more confident and gathered up a few more sheep each time. You can see there's many caves beneath the farm, all well and lit up from my explorations earlier on in the series. And that's not something normally I would see, but only you and me now see it after the fact in this extra little view that you know, I don't get to see underground like that, so it's quite cool to see the various different viewpoints in these time lapses for me. Now, most of the sheep went in no problem, no pistons necessary or anything like that to get them in place, and because the little chamber that I put them in, the little pen, so to speak, is it has a fence post already in there, then I actually just use the fence post to leash up the sheep and get them more or less in place, and then just give them a nudge and pop a glass block in. Didn't actually take too long. This was actually the quickest part of this build, working out how to do the initial contraption, and then working out how to collect the wool was the biggest part. Now, the next bit that we're working on here is the shear delivery system. So we have to make sure that all of these shearing droppers, or no, the dispensers, sorry, are full of shears. Now, one of the sheep did actually escape at this point. I have no idea how. I think I must have accidentally broken a glass block at some point, but here I've made a little channel where I can get some hoppers in. We're going to get a nice little hopper line, and I've actually just popped some lamps in there as well at the back to keep things nicely lit. Now, this hopper chain delivers those shears, and the shears will come from a nice little chest. We'll be able to take an output from that chest to find out if it gets empty, and then we'll be able to alert us with a bell, which I'll do a little later. As you can see here, I've also just laid some track underneath, and this is so we can get our wool collection system up and running. So we're just going to run a hopper minecart over some hoppers there, feed them into a dropper, and then do a little dropper dispenser circuit down here. I never remember how to do these. I just figure it out each time. A little one like that does the trick, and it doesn't take much. It depends on the situation and how much space you have around the dropper as to how you might do that. Now, I must say, unlike the witch farm, this farm worked perfectly first time, apart from one little tiny thing. For some reason, the sheep, when they were being sheared, just seemed to pop their wool upwards instead of down. I think they were popping up through the glass block that was in their head, and they was hitting the hoppers that was just above them. Now, I went into a testing world to play around with this for a little while, and very easily found the solution. So in a little while, you're going to see me going through here, removing that glass block, and putting a little trapdoor in place above the sheep. Now, that allows the wool to pop up and then fall back down to the ground without getting caught on the hopper or the dispenser. So you can see here, I'm just going through and actually putting that glass block into the sheep's pen, which we're going to have to take out later. So it was a small mistake. It was something that if I'd planned this and designed it in a testing world first, I would have easily have seen. I do think as a general rule it's better to do things in a testing world first, but this was something I was relatively confident about, and you can see here I'm just going through and putting the small tweak in, and you can see that that little birch trapdoor there is just going to stop that wool going flying out in the wrong direction. And there we go, we're pretty much sorted with that. The next thing to do is really just do the alerting system for finding out if this chest is running low on shears. And we're going to use a bell from a village for that, and just a comparator to take an output from the chest, and we'll find out if that chest is empty, and then we'll just invert the signal to with a redstone torch to get an empty instead of item. And then I've just got a little comparator clock there that rings the bell. Just going to move the bell though, so it's in a much more aesthetic position, and the redstone is a little bit more hidden. Relatively straightforward redstone circuit, and it just makes that bell ring absolutely crazy when that chest is empty. So there we go, folks, that was something a little bit different. We've done 3 cool farms. Overall they went well, they're producing what I hoped they would, and now it's time to show you the 4th and final one. And we're doing this in sort of real normal time, because I've actually already done this one. It's the honey farm. The honey farm, I did it in a live stream. There was a box right here with bee stuff in, and that's what that a few episodes ago, this greenhouse thing that was here, I was breeding bees. And if we're actually put the bees in the nether, so if we go into the nether, there's this little doorway that goes down into a new room. So if you haven't seen the live stream, this will all be new for you. Comes down into this new room. It's a nice big room, and down here, this is the nether portal that links the nether to our overall storage system, and here is the bee farm. It's not massive, but it does seem to produce what we need. At the moment I haven't connected it up just because we haven't got the storage system in. Once we get the storage system in, I will take this chest off the end and we'll hook this hopper, this chain of hoppers, up to that portal there, and you can see that it's produced a good number of blocks so far. I've actually emptied this a couple of times as well, so we've got lots and lots of honey blocks. So these two here, they're the ones that are getting the combs. Up above there is a chest with shears, and these are 2 lots of 4, these 8 ones here, they're the ones that are getting the honey with the bottles. Now I can turn the farms on and off at the minute. This farm is turned off and this one's turned off as well. The way I turn them off is that we've got a lever here, and if we just look underneath, we've got some just up here we've got some stone bricks which is cutting off the redstone connection. So the comparator measures the beehive, and we only want to action this when it's at a strength of 5, because there's 5 different stages of honey that can be in the hive. And then the signal comes from out of the comparator up there on that slab across the top and to the dispenser, which either does the snip or the dip with with the bottle. And these blocks here that are at the back cut off the signal. So if I turn the farm back on, you should immediately see that they get enabled, and that means they'll get snipped. There you go, so they've been snipped now, and the bees will go about their business, go back in and do the honey. And if we look underneath, those 2 blocks have retracted and they don't block the redstone anymore. I find this was the best way to turn the farm on and off, because any other way of interrupting the redstone, either by powering it or something like that, just interfered with the natural running of this, and just turning it off works absolutely brilliantly. Now of course we've got the same here, and these are all ready to harvest. So if I turn this on, all of them gets harvest, and when they fill back up, they'll get harvested again. So all of the stuff is now coming down here. So we've got more honey bottles and more honeycomb, and of course the honeycomb we can turn into the blocks, or we can use it to make more beehives, and the bottles we can use to make honey blocks. And I think we've probably got about 4 or 5 stacks of honey blocks now, so we've got plenty to be getting on with. I'm just going to leave these farms turned off for now, because I don't want too much coming through the system while it's not hooked up to our main sorting system. The other thing to tell you is the bells. So these only really work if you keep them topped up with shears and with bottles. And what we have to do is the empty bottles, like we've got here in our inventory, every now and then we have to go and fill up the bottles. But when it's running low, we'll get a notification. We'll get this bell. This bell will start ringing. In fact, I will show you it. And the way to get up to where we refill these is there's a little entrance here through the back. You just duck under the farm and you come up to this little room on the roof. Now this is where the spare shears are, and this is where the spare bottles are. And if actually I take all the bottles out, you can hear that bell going crazy, or you might be able to hear that bell going crazy. I can certainly hear it in my headset. Let's just check that the volume is as it should be. It's a noisy little thing. Now I can temporarily mute the bell by powering this switch. So like if I'm dealing with it, like I know it needs bottles and I want to go and fetch some more bottles or something, I can mute it temporarily. But I need to remember to turn it back on again when I'm done, and come back up here and fill this with more bottles. And now we've got a good witch farm running. Oh, I can hear more bees going in and out. Now we've got a good witch farm going. We've actually got plenty of bottles. So all the bees are going absolutely crazy now, getting more pollen and so forth. The farm's turned off at the moment, so those hives will fill up, but they won't get harvested. And that's about it. At the back here, it's a very simple detection system. Like I said, the redstone loot just goes round and fires the dispenser. And the rest of this is all just supplying the necessary bottles and shears to the droppers and picking them up from beneath. So it's all quite simple. It took me a while to get it exactly how I wanted it though, to fit it in place, but I'm really happy with that. And we built that pretty much all of it on stream. I'm not happy with the way this bottom section looks, but I think I'll come in here and do some decorating. We've got room for maybe another farm down this side of some description, so we'll decorate that at some point. I'm really happy with that, and we've got plenty of blocks from it. So there we go, folks. 3 time lapses of farms and also 1 other farm done in a live stream. Now if you want to keep up to date with when I do my live streams and all that sort of stuff, go onto the Discord. That's the best way to find out about all the notifications, or social media, or make sure you've got that notification bell on YouTube ticks, or you're on the notifications on Twitch, or you're on the notifications on Facebook, because I do it to all of them at the moment. But that is going to be all for now. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought of this sort of different sort of episode, and next time we'll go back and do some sort of adventuring. I'm thinking I might do my first ever solo raid. Sounds like it could be good. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching, take care, and for now, goodbye folks.